was sitting in the Grantham Library, writing about Remembrance 2013, and my eyes spotted two leaflets in the Community Information Wall, one about the Battle of Britain Visitor Centre in Coningsby, and the other about the Heritage Centre in RAF Scampton, the home of the Red Arrows. The second leaflet tells me that no traces of the First World War station survive, and how, with the uncertainty of Nazi Germany's ambitions in Europe in the 1930s, the government of the day, with the threat of war a real possibility, decided that our armed forces needed strengthening, and so, as part of a vast rebuilding programme, Scampton was to become operational once more. 100 years on, we're all connected to the First World War, either through our own family history, the heritage of our local communities, or because of its long-term impact on society and the world we live in today. From 2014 to 2018 across the world, nations, communities and individuals of all ages will come together to mark the centenary, commemorate and remember the lives of those who lived, fought and died in the First World War. Preparing this thought for Gravity has been good for me, because as someone brought up in South American countries, I never learnt about the world wars as you do in the UK. It could intrigue other cultures as to why we should remember. Why should we stop and think about those events that happened so long ago, and possibly be seen by our own youngsters here as making such a fuss? I have learned that the First World War was a turning point in world history, that it claimed the lives of over 16 million people across the globe and had a huge impact on those who experienced it, that it wiped out vast numbers of Europe's young men. It was the first real instance of total war after all. Whole nations were pitted out against each other. Millions of men fought on land, at sea and in the air. Modern weaponry caused mass casualties and civilian populations suffered hardships and came under threat of enemy attack. So the war and its consequences shaped much of the 20th century, and the impact of it can still be felt today. Last weekend I visited Bath Art Gallery, and there I read of how World War I changed art too. The celebration of wealth and privilege of typical Edwardian art was no longer welcome or appropriate, so artists increasingly found themselves drawn to document the changes brought by wartime, and they certainly painted those everyday changes. More recently, the second half of the 20th century, for example, saw the advent of the Cold War and the threat posed by nuclear weapons, and you can see that new sense of unease reflected in art to this day. I saw it within those gilded frames in that art gallery, and it was not nice to see. Today, as we remember them, I will be praying for all people involved in war, men and women, and for the young in particular, that they will be a generation of passionate people, encouraged to challenge the old and to unlock the new.
Visit our website, gravityfm.net. Local radio for local people.
On Gravity FM.